Welcome to A Second Look. I'm Kevin Wilson, Ohio District President. This is my weekly devotion for our congregations based on the scripture passages from this past weekend. We turn again to the gospel reading this week, to Luke chapter 21. And in this passage, we find an illustration as to why it's good to know scripture well. Now, this account occurs after Jesus' resurrection. Some of the disciples decided to drag out the nets and go back to fishing. They had been out fishing in the night, and when dawn illuminated the skies, they were coming in towards shore. They saw a stranger walking along the shore, and he asked what most strangers would ask in that circumstance: "How'd you do?" And they answered, much like I do when I go fishing, "Not well." And then the stranger had an odd request. He said, "Cast out again. Cast those nets out again." And they did. And they caught fish. I mean, they caught so many fish, they couldn't get them on board. They caught more than a boatload of fish. At some point in there, John, the disciple Jesus loved, recognized the stranger as Jesus. Then Simon Peter recognizes him as Jesus. And Simon Peter does his Simon Peter thing, jumps in the water, swims to shore. I think this is important for us, at least to take as a model or an example to follow in life. How did these disciples recognize Jesus? Certainly, Jesus could have simply made them aware. It's in his divine power to do so. But I would also say that in the case of John and Simon Peter, it might have been deja vu. I mean, they had an experience like this with Jesus previously. When Jesus was calling them to follow him, at one point, he preached and taught from one of their boats, having pushed out from shore. And he came back to shore as they were mending their nets and asked them to go out from a little ways and cast their nets. They did and had a miraculous catch of fish. They had knowledge of Jesus. They knew the same story we now know because it was included in the scriptures. That's why I'm thinking this illustrates why it's good to know scripture. Scripture's there and available to us. When we have troubled times, like those disciples had troubled times at Jesus' crucifixion, we can also call on scripture. God can bring scripture passages to mind to ease our soul. And likewise, if we face a very long dry spell, the way the disciples had a long dry spell there fishing, God can bring to mind scripture passages for inspiration. And if we're confused, have a confusing time like these disciples did after Jesus' resurrection, God again can bring the Bible passages to mind that will help reassure us. There are a lot of wonderful reasons to know scripture well, but these are some very pragmatic ones. Until next week, the Lord bless and guide.